Welcome to the Rhode Island Right to Bear Arms Network, a show dedicated to gun rights in the state of Rhode Island.
Welcome back to the Rhode Island Right to Bear Arms Network. My name is Glenn Valentine, the Vice President of the Rhode Island Firearms Owners League. So for today's episode, obviously we're going to be talking about the hearings that are coming up this Monday. If you haven't heard already via social media or text messaging or emails from any one of the organizations, this Monday, the Rhode Island Senate, the Senate Judiciary Committee, will be hearing the majority of gun bills at 3 p.m., and that will be entirely virtual. So I'll get into the nuts and bolts of how that rolls out. If you aren't aware of what happened on the House side, this might be new to you, but if you were, you did witness and you did watch and you participated in all the things associated with the hearings they had last month on the 19th. This is very similar, but I will get into some things that are different, so certainly stay tuned. However, before I go over what happens early next week, if you haven't gotten on our text messaging service, make sure you text to the number 88202 the phrase RI Gun Rights, all one word. So text RI Gun Rights to the number 88202 instead of a phone number. It's 88202. And folks have asked me what that means. I guess some of the older folks or maybe some of the younger folks, but mostly, no offense to the older people, but they don't know what that means. So you take your phone instead of the phone number that you would normally enter in to text someone. You type in the number 88202 and then type in the phrase RI Gun Rights, and that will get you automatically on our texting service, so that when hearings like this pop up, you'll get a text directly. And it's actually very effective because it's 100% engagement. It pops up on your phone if you subscribe to it. We only send out text messages when there are alerts like this, where there's a hearing or whether there's really important information related to elections. Now, if you are on the list and you're asked to do things like, for instance, sign up for the hearings or send your legislators an email or whatnot, or a phone call, please do that, because these things, they do cost money. We spend quite a bit on these services, and it'd be a shame if we waste, our efforts and our money on things that folks aren't following through with. And if you're not down with following or signing up on some sort of text messaging service, you can go on social media and follow any one of the organizations, the Rhode Island Firearms Owners League, the Rhode Island Second Amendment Coalition, Rhode Island Rifle and Revolver Association, the Rhode Island Federated Sportsmen, We the People for 2A Preservation. Any one of those pages, this stuff will be shared. And there's a number of other pages, RI Concealed Carry and RI Hunting and Sport Shooting. And so anyway, if you're on any one of those pages, you probably got this information. So it's really important that you do stay in tune with what's happening. And I know gun guys, no offense, but typically are pretty sensitive about sharing their personal information. But these are things that need to happen, because the other side, they're very good at astroturfing a movement and getting folks to sign up for all sorts of things that allow them to mobilize folks to send emails to legislators and call their legislators and do all the things that they do regularly to abrogate your civil rights, as far as your right to bear arms and really all of your other rights. It's not just about guns. The progressive movement in this state is really looking to lock down on lots of things that you enjoy in terms of your personal freedoms. Anyway, so as far as what's happening on Monday, super important. The Rhode Island Senate Judiciary Committee will be having hearings on some of the bills. It will be at 3 p.m. And it's not all of the bills. For whatever reason, they've broken it down. I think it's the major bills. It's the assault weapons ban. It's the magazine restriction. A few other really bad bills. There's a couple of Pro 2A bills. But for the most part, it's very similar to what happened on the House side back on the 19th of March. They're going to have hearings on Capitol TV like they normally would. You will not be in attendance, nor will I. And you essentially sign up for testimony if you want to put written testimony. There's a link on our website, rifol.org, which I'll link below. And you can submit your written testimony, and there's deadlines for that. So just make sure you're aware of those, and it's all there on the website. And then if you want to testify, verbal comments, which we suggest you do, because we dominated on the House side as far as verbal comments go, and we actually dominated the written, and I'll get into that in a second. But we absolutely dominated the hearings, and that's what we want to see. But if you sign up for public comment, you'll be limited to a minute and a half, maybe tops, which is fine, because really the message is, the numbers of folks that oppose these nonsense pieces of legislation. So if you go to rifol.org, you can find the link to sign up on the State House website as far as getting your name on the list. And what happens is, just like on the House side, there's a secretary that will call you when it's your turn to testify, and then then you can make your public comments during that hearing. Now, in addition to your public testimony or public comments, really, in a minute and a half or a minute, you really can't cover much. But in addition to that, you can also submit, and you should submit, written testimony. And really, that's not a book report on the Second Amendment. I know a lot of folks are like, what do I write? What do I write? And folks write some really good things, but if that's just not your thing, it's perfectly okay to just simply list what the bills are and explain whether you support or are in opposition to those bills. And it's really important because going back on the House side, reflecting on what happened on the House side on the 19th, we went in and looked at, I actually used a program I use at school. I pulled off every PDF that they had downloaded or they had uploaded onto the State House website as far as testimony goes. And so I had a copy of everybody's written testimony as of like 1 p.m. on Friday the 19th. And so when legislators walked in, they would essentially know roughly how many people submitted testimony. There were about 1,300. And out of all of those emails submitted to the House Judiciary Committee, we made up like something like 96% or 94% of all the actual emails were ours, were Pro 2A folks. And then I searched for key terms, and it's give or take. I mean, it's not a super science here, like bulletproof science, but for the most part, I searched for key terms, and luckily both sides, the antis and the pro folks, used a lot of the form letters, especially the antis. So I was able to kind of come up with a number, and that was about 94% of the emails out there, the written testimony, were folks from our side. And if you take their emails, which they typically submitted letters that covered multiple bills, so even if you multiplied that, I think it was 5 bills that they were pushing for. If you multiply their numbers by 5, it really just ends up with them making up about 20% of the emails. So we still dominated in terms of the written testimony. However, the scheme that they had for that written testimony, for whatever reason, the committee chair was under the impression that they outnumbered us on the written testimony, which was not the case. And so, but for whatever reason, he was under the impression that they sent more emails. So I'm not really certain how they come up with those numbers. But we don't want to leave any question on the Senate side, so we want to make sure that we dominate, as we always do, with lots of emails to the legislators via that committee, and also make sure we outnumber them in terms of public testimony, which we absolutely did on the House side. Virtually all the people that called in were Pro 2A folks, and they did a really good job at testifying. And I'm sure folks will do just fine on the Senate side as well. The committee is actually, I think, a little bit more favorable to our position. If you look at the makeup of that committee, we've had conversations with the senators there, and there are quite a few of them on the committee. I'd say the majority of them that are not a fan of sort of being bamboozled into supporting nonsense legislation. So again, head to Rhode Island Firearm Owners League, RIFOL.org, and there's both forms there for the verbal testimony, and again, the deadlines there for verbal are Sunday at 4 p.m., so that needs to be submitted. It's just a simple form you fill out, which is actually the State House. It's their website, not ours. So you click our link to get to the State House, where it's just a blue button that says verbal testimony, and then there's also a form that you fill out where you can oppose the bills and submit written testimony, similar to what the anti-gunners have done. We're just going with a form letter. If you want to make changes and fill in things there, that's fine. Otherwise, you can just go with the form that we have, and that will be your written testimony. And the deadline for that is 2 p.m. on Monday. So these deadlines, we get it. It's not really, in my opinion, it's a scheme to, they may suggest that this is something to make their life easier on their end, but they shouldn't be having these hearings at all anyway. So I think it's partly done because of the fact that they want to limit the number of people that actually participate. So don't be dissuaded by that. That's part of the plan for many of these anti-gunners. And many of I would say the majority of legislators in the State House are not happy about the fact that we're having these gun nights, these gun bill nights, because it really does limit the interaction between constituents and legislators. So don't fall for this, or don't let them get away with this tactic, because they certainly will, they'll use that lack of participation as a way to promulgate this idea that gun owners don't care about these bills. We absolutely do, and we have dominated in every aspect of fighting these bills as opposed to the anti-gunners, regardless of the money that they spend. We always outdo them, and we can't ever let that be the inverse. So, again, hearings on Monday, 3 p.m., the only way you can do verbal testimony is if you submit the form on our website or go directly to the State House website. But I'm telling you, it's a lot easier if you just go to the link below, which is RIFOL.org. Fill out that form for verbal testimony. There's also a button there to watch the hearing, but that form needs to be filled out by 4 p.m., not on Monday, but on Sunday. And then you need to submit your written testimony by 2 p.m. on Monday. I think that covers everything. But if I missed anything, I will make an update, maybe do a podcast by the end of the weekend. I was going to do initially record a podcast about fundraising for two very pro 2A candidates, Jessica De La Cruz and Representative David Place, Senator De La Cruz. And I just hadn't gotten around to uploading it, and then all of a sudden the hearings came out, so it was done. I may just scrap that entirely because I know David Place, Representative Place, will be on the show next episode, and I'll use that as a promo to maybe raise them some money, or hopefully, certainly raise money, because I know I'll be donating. But talk a little bit about some Second Amendment things going on in this state as far as legislation goes with Representative Place, and then also talk about supporting Pro 2A candidates and Pro 2A legislators that are already there in the General Assembly. So, again, all links below. Just make sure you check that out and make sure you follow through with those things. Share them to your clubs, shops, all the all the folks that you know oppose these pieces of legislation or support the Pro 2A legislation that we have. All right, take care.